This is part 2 of the story of Blossom, the awesome possum, goes to Bill's house. You remember that Blossom crawled into Bill's backpack and she went home with him because he said he could give her a warm home in the cold winter wind. So, when they got to Bill's house, Bill left his backpack just inside the front door of their house. And he went to his mama. She had been kind of sniffling and crying. And he said, "Mama, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I had a fight with you. I love you and I didn't want to make you sad." She gave him a big hug. Blossom was peeking out the corner of the backpack and saw his mama give him a big hug. She was so happy that he was home. And she said, "You sit down at the table. I'm going to fix you a nice lunch." So she made him a sandwich with some ham and onions and cheese and mayonnaise. And Bill ate that sandwich, and he was real glad to get that sandwich. It tasted pretty good, and he was real glad to warm up. And he almost forgot about his new friend in his backpack till he looked over and he saw that nose sticking out, sniffing. She was sniffing that sandwich because it smelled so good, and she hadn't had any breakfast yet. So Bill saved his last piece of onion and his last piece of cheese. And he said, "Mom, I need to run out to the shed for a minute." "Okay, but don't stay long," she said. So he snuck that cheese and onion into his pocket, put on his coat, grabbed his backpack, and went out the door into the backyard where there was a shed. He opened up the door. It wasn't very big. It was not much bigger than a closet. Maybe a couple of meters each direction, and that's it. And the ceiling wasn't very tall. And there were tools in there, garden tools, shovels and hose and things like that. And boxes. Well, Bill found an empty box, and he found an old shirt and put it in there and said, "Blossom, how would this be for a little nest?" Blossom crawled in the box. It was just the right size for her to crawl in and curl up. Not too big. "This is pretty nice," she said. "Oh, I almost forgot," said Bill. And he reached in his pocket and pulled out the cheese and the onion. Well, Blossom had never had either one of those before. She took a bite of that onion. "Oh, this is a strong taste," she said. "I like it, but yowie, it gets kind of hot too, spicy." "Yeah, onions are great," said Bill. "Here's a little cheese." She bit the cheese. It was nice and soft and cool, and it just helped calm down that onion taste. "Well, that's yummy too," said Blossom. Bill said, "I can't stay very long right now, but I'll be back later with some cat food." "Okay," said Blossom, and Bill left, and he closed the door. Now, when he closed the door, it was pretty snug in that little shed. It kept most of the wind out. Blossom looked around a bit. She climbed and sniffed in the boxes, and she didn't find anything that was worth eating in there. It was mostly old books and cans of different things, not food. So Blossom thought, it's been kind of a big day. I think I'll just take a nap. So she did. And later that day, she heard the door open again, and here came Bill. He had a little tray with some hard chunks on it, brown chunks, and he laid it on the floor and said, "This is some cat food. I don't know if you like it or not." Well, Blossom had nibbled some cat food before, and she knew it was pretty good. It wasn't good like Doritos, but it was decent food. So she started nibbling on the cat food, and Blossom said, "How did it go with your mom?" And Bill said, "You were right. I needed to come home and say I was sorry." She said she was sorry too. And I like having a home. Blossom said, "It's good to have family." "Yes," said Bill. "Do you have any other family?" asked Blossom. "Well, it's me and my mom. My dad works in the city, and he only comes home on the weekend. But we do have a cat. Her name is Bosco." Bosco? That's a funny name for a cat, thought Blossom, but she thought, I've never really met a cat before and talked to it. Well, after she finished nibbling on the cat food, Bill said, "I do have a little snack for you." And he pulled out a little bag of Doritos and said, "I brought this. I thought we could share it together." So he opened the bag and he gave half to Blossom and half for himself. Blossom thought that was the most special thing. I have a friend, she thought. After he left, she laid down in her cozy little box and thought, it's pretty nice to have a friend on cold winter days. I think I'm going to stay here for a while. And she lay down and went to sleep. She thought about all her friends back in the forest. Many of them were hibernating for the winter, sleeping it off until springtime came again. But here she had a friend that would be awake all winter long and even would share his food with her. So she had very nice dreams that night. The end.